even as a young child, enduring a lot of abuse and other things, I never asked why me. I would ask for it to stop, but I never asked, why is this happening to me? I cannot raise my children in a loveless marriage where she's abusive all the time. I cannot let them stay in a system that teaches you let your husband do whatever he wants because at the end of the day, you're his property.
Thanks for tuning in to the Vibrant Soul Society, The Conversations. I'm your host, Baba Sam, the Miracle Man. Today we have a very special guest with us, a vibrant soul, Margaret. Margaret, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you. I am honored to be here. When I first saw you on Facebook, your story spoke to me of how you healed yourself and made me say, I'm going to figure out how to do that for me. I'm still working on it, but I'm getting there.
We can get into that, but there's actually nothing to figure out. That's the great irony of it. Our soul already knows. So we just have to remind each other that we are a vibrant soul and the soul knows the way forward. While we begin here, Margaret, let's just dive in. Who is Margaret?
Margaret is a spiritual healer. I'm a psychic medium. I am trained in multiple facets of energy healing. I recently got trained in pranic energy healing, which is my new passion because it works so well and it invites miracles in. It makes us more open to it. Sometimes we need that extra something to help us realize that it's all here. Get it.
Before
Um,
all your intuitive gifts and healing, what was life for Margaret before you knew the spiritual realm?
Life was very interesting. When I was a child, I used to talk to my deceased grandma, and my parents weren't spiritual. Like there was rumors that my dad at one point was a Sunday school teacher, but when I known him, you would have never thought the way the man talked and acted. I found my deceased grandmom on my mother's side when I was very young. I was in foster care. I was given a picture of the guardian angel over the two children in the bridge that many people are familiar with. And I would look through the hard times, look up to that angel and pray to her. That's how I started getting my angelic connection. I would pray to her. And it was very interesting because even as a young child, enduring a lot of abuse and other things, I never asked why me. I would ask for it to stop, but I never asked, why is this happening to me? That really hasn't been a question that I've asked too much. I just figure we all have our past that we have to go down for whatever reason. I have learned in recent years, like the last 10 or so years, that quite often we have a tendency to block it and make it more difficult than it needs to be. In my adulthood, throughout my childhood, throughout my teenage years, my spiritual gifts got stronger. I was able to connect with people on the other side. When I was a teenager, I started having very accurate, very real, sometimes disturbing premonitions. Not coming from a spiritual family, not coming from a metaphysical family. That was looked at very strange. My parents thought I was losing my mind and they didn't know what to do with me. My dad even at one point said, just send her to school and let them take care of her. Luckily, I had a counselor I talked to and she was like, you're not necessarily crazy. She was like, let's talk further. It helped me over the hump and I realized that the life I had known wasn't all there was. And started turning that light bulb on. In my young adulthood, I continued to explore different religions, trying to find God, trying to get the connection with spirits and figure it out. There really wasn't a whole lot of religion in our house. I had no manual, no book, just trying to figure it out. I learned little things here and there and had different experiences. Life hasn't been easy, but I am still here. And I know I have a purpose. Some of what I had to go through of the negative stuff is because I had to be able to show other people, hey, you can overcome this. You can get better. You can be healthier. You can do these things. People are in darkness and they stay there because they lose hope. I ask when I'm working with people to be able to help people before I start working. I ask to be able to give people who need it hope. And that's what brings me joy when I see that little spark of hope come back in their eyes. When I see that, I can do that. This isn't as hard as I thought it was. That's what brings me joy. That's what makes me happy. Like I said, I'm a psychic. I read angel cards. I'm also a life coach, Reiki master, Pranic energy healer, shamanic energy healer. I'm also a certified hypnotherapist. So I've got tools that I use to help different people. My main joy is when I'm helping people. See that light come on, or they tell me they're getting goosebumps because I know it's reconnecting with their soul, bringing them back to remembering what they already knew.
That's just something I want to touch on. I think is very important when you're going through in a very abusive childhood and all these kind of difficulties. It is important that you weren't questioning like, why is this happening to me? That you were sort of moving beyond that. What
Yeah.
do you say to people that are facing this abuse and maybe they're still facing in adulthood that they're seeing that it's why is this happening to me? How did you move beyond that? 'Cause a lot of people are unable to do that.
So the first thing I usually tell people who ask, and I'm very blessed, very grateful, the universe sends me a lot of people who are in abusive situations but have no idea how to get out. So the first thing I ask them is, what have you tried doing? Then they tell me whatever. They might have said trial separation, various things. And then I say, have you asked to have your burden made lighter? We work on getting a plan. And I remind them, and I think this is really important reminder that a lot of people don't hear often enough. I remind them that they are loved. The divine loves each and every one of us. And for me personally, that's what got me through. I didn't, even as a kid, understand it, but I could feel the angels. I could feel the love, and I knew there was more out there. I try to help them connect on some levels with that spirit, connect on that love, remind them that they are loved, remind them that they are special. Because when you're in an abusive relationship, whether it be from your parents, partner, spouse, your general family, you forget that you are special. You forget that you're a magical being created by the divine and you have a purpose here. If everybody's walking around here, that means you got a purpose. So let's find it. Let's figure it out. Let's get you moving that way, moving forward, and let's move you into your happiness.
I think it's really a key point that a lot of people haven't even considered. Most people are carrying all this baggage, and then you ever think of it like, how can I drop this baggage? How can I become lighter? How can I be free? So I think it's a really important message. And then the message too, that you're loved just the way you are. Unconditional love is such an important factor. So let's go back a little bit. When did you discover that you could speak to your grandmother, and how did you get confirmation that it was indeed her?
Well, that's an interesting story. I love telling this story. And it's my mom, again, my family, everybody got their own issues. But my mom didn't have pictures of my grandmom when we were growing up because she had already passed. She didn't want us to be sad seeing a picture of somebody we'd never meet. So I was probably about 7, 8 years old. And I'd been talking to my grandmom for a while. My mom goes, Margaret, you've got to stop talking to your imaginary friend. You are too old for this stuff now. And I said, what are you talking about? I'm talking to grandmom. And she goes, you are not. You're full of the S word. Yeah. And I said, no, I'm talking. Don't you see her? She's right there. I had been seeing her, having conversations with her, and I didn't realize I was the only one. I knew she was dead, but I didn't realize I was the only one in the family who could see her and talk to her. And my mom was like, fine, if you're actually talking to her, tell me what she looks like. Never saw a picture of this woman. Described her to a T. My mother's face got ghostly white. She was just like, okay, go put it out. No clue, just like when I had my first premonition, no clue what to tell me to do. So it was very interesting. About a month after my mom calmed herself down, grandma's picture came out. I came out of hiding and got put up on the dresser, and that was nice. So that's how that all started.
So then from the grandmother to having conversations with her, how did that expand out to include the angels and other
Well, like I
entities?
said, when I was in foster care, I was given a picture of the guardian angels. About 8 years old seemed to be my pivotal turning point, just turning the dimmer on a little bit on my spirituality. The family at the time had taken us to the Catholic Church and, pray, read the Bible, do this, that, and the other thing. I'm like, okay, these are adults. They say to do it, I'll go do it. And so I couldn't really connect with God. They were talking about it at church at that age. So I would pray to the angel. And then as I prayed to her multiple times a day. And even today, I still pray to all kinds of angels multiple times a day. As I got older, I had my first premonition at about 15. And it was a pretty devastating premonition. It was pretty scary. I got to see some trauma as it was happening and unfolding. and came in toward the very end of it. I don't want to go into too many details because it is very graphic and disturbing to some people. I woke my mom up because I woke up screaming because this was so traumatic. And it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. My mom's like, go to bed. You're full of crap. All this stuff. And I go outside, and lo and behold, I go outside just to see the last of my premonition come true and to see the violence happen. So again, send her to school. Let school figure out what to do with her. And I didn't know. Now I knew. And I just, from there, little things happened in my adulthood. When I was married to my husband, we had joined the Mormon church for a while because I was looking for something. I was looking for a connection. I was looking for more. I was looking for bigger. What I had just didn't feel like enough. We went through that for a while. And then as we were part of the Mormon church, I read a crap ton of stuff. And not even just Mormon books, but different books on spirituality. I couldn't get enough to read. Back then, there wasn't a whole lot of spiritual TV shows. I read stuff and I learned, and the more I learned, the more engrossed I came. I went to somebody who was teaching a class on how to read angel cards. Everything she said spoke to me. Everything she said made sense. I was like, I got to find out more about this. I'm already talking to dead people. I talk to the angels every day. I just got to figure out how to clarify what they're saying to be able to hear it better. And I work on him, and we have this human experience. Nobody hears everything 24/7, but I've gotten pretty good over the years, I feel. It's just a really interesting connection. When I was in high school, my brother-in-law's parents had died. And I went to the funeral. It was a family of agnostics and atheists. And we go to the family, and I see my grandma, and my grandpa's standing there. Up until this point, I hadn't seen my grandpa, just saw my grandma. My brother-in-law's parents had passed away. We were at their funeral. I saw my grandma reach over and put her arm around the brother-in-law's dad. And she goes, tell them it'll be okay. I'll watch over them. I'll show them where to go. That was mind-blowing to anybody, I think. Well, to be at such a young age, like preteen, early teenhood, and have that. But then, wait, you want me to carry this message that they're going to be okay back to a bunch of atheists and agnostics? So that was a little bit scary, but I was like, well, it's just like listening to any other adult, I'm just going to do it because that's what they're telling me to do. So I tried after the funeral when we were doing the memorial. I said, I saw my grandma put her arm around your dad, and she said that your dad and mom are going to be okay. This family was really struggling. The dad passed. They brought him back, and then as he was passing, the mother had passed. They were able to bring the dad back, but not the mom. It was a tricky 3 days before the funeral. I remember them saying at the memorial service, oh, God's playing a funny joke on us. He takes my mom away, then gives her back, then brings dad back. But there was a lot of hurt and confusion. Here I am in my young teenagehood. I'm supposed to help fix stuff. Yeah. I was just like, they're okay. I've seen it. They're going to be okay. And a couple of them seemed to actually find peace with that. And then a couple of them were just like, you're full of crap. You're a kid. What do you know? I did as instructed, and I did what felt good in here. So I must have did right. And that's what I've tried to follow since then. If it feels good, I try to do it. That's what I coach my clients on. If you're ever not sure on a decision, see how it feels deep in your heart. See how it sits with your soul, and allow that to move you forward.
Wow, it sounds like a very interesting childhood to be shown such a dramatic premonition at age 15. How did that change you as a person when you saw the premonition and it came true at such a young age? How did that change
Really
you?
scares me at first. I had no idea. I'd seen the TV shows growing up, Highway to Heaven and Touched by an Angel. Those were my favorites. But that's me. That doesn't happen in real life. Yeah. And oh my God, it happens in real life. Not exactly the same, but very similar. These experiences have integrated into the fiber of my being, and that's what gave me hope. That's what gave me the strength to get through and on the other side of 2 abusive marriages, of being abused all my life. Been in 17 different foster homes as a child from birth to age 16. Those little things, while they were big things, were also little things at the same time. Most people might just chalk it up. It's a picture of an angel. So what? But those were pivotal for me. Those were my anchor. Even today, that guardian angel, every place I live, she stays in my bedroom. She's one of the first things unpacked, one of the last things to be packed when we move.
And I think it's really important that you were talking about that. Most people discount all those little small moments. If we really examine them, they do make big changes. Most of the time, we're getting these little signs, these little symbols, but we're ignoring them. And if we actually tune in and pay attention, oh, this is guiding me in a certain direction. So I think that was really good for you to be curious. There's a curious aspect of yourself to look deeper into it.
Yeah. It's funny because I grew up, my dad believed that children should not be seen or heard. I was always inquisitive. At one point, I had a foster mom who gave me a notebook and she was like, write all your questions down. I'll answer them at the end of the day. I was just always asking. Even today, I'm always asking questions. I'm always like, how does this work? And what about that? What does that mean? If I'm taking a class, I let the instructors teach me. A lot of it, I let spirit show me how it works
Hmm.
because spirit has all the answers. We just have to be open to them.
But the key is remember that we are spirit, that we sometimes get lost in this humanity and forget to ask those deeper questions to realize there's a purpose why this is occurring. It's not just randomly happening to me. There's a reason and purpose behind this. If we can say, okay, this is happening. Why am I having this experience? What's going on here?
And it's funny that you bring that up because several years ago, I was in this Facebook group and somebody was learning Dolores Cannon's quantum hypnosis. He said, I need people to guinea pig on so I can get my certification. And there's no charge. So I went and I signed up. I'd heard about it. I had a client who told me she went and had it done. It was amazing. I know that it helps. There's probably a million different ways we can work on helping to facilitate our own healing. But I remember I was sitting with this gentleman. His name was Scott. He's like, "What questions do you have?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I never did this. You offered to do it for free. The price was right. I wanted to learn more about it. Let's see what it is." And he's like, "Well, people usually, if they come with a traumatic background, they want to know why this happened to them or whatever." And I said, he's like, "Do you want me to answer some conscious why?" I said, "I knew why. This happened to me because I needed to be able to help other people through this." And he was like, "You are more advanced than most people." Different things came up, and there was a lot of past life regression and trauma in those lives. But at the same time, I knew that those were what had to happen to make me be able to help people in those lives as well. When I get to the other side someday, hopefully many decades from now, I'll probably ask God to clarify a couple tweaks. Other than that, I know there's a reason. And when Spirit wants to enlighten me on what the reason is for something, I'm very grateful and thankful. But a lot of times I'm just like, I don't need to know the reason. I'll just let Spirit help lead me where I need to go.
Hmm. That's a perfect way to see it, but you were very advanced for him. Most people are always asking, why is this happening to me? And you were never in that space. You were just like, all right, it's happening. Let's keep moving forward. Let's keep diving in and exploring life.
Yes. We match the energy we put out a lot of times. I've found that if I let my vibration get too low, then all kinds of negative stuff keeps coming. I gotta back it up and reprioritize, re-energize everything.
Right. That's what all the teachers talk about from Abraham to Seth to Bashar. Keep your energy up because life flows easier. If you get low energy, you get stuck in the mud. It's pretty basic. You could have really gotten stuck in the mud quite dramatically with all the experiences you have. I can't imagine 17 different families that you were involved in growing up.
It was interesting. There's my birth picture, and then there's no picture of me until I'm two because I was in Lord only knows how many foster homes. My dad was a shutterbug, but my family didn't talk. And it took Spirit telling me, there's no pictures of you because you weren't living with them. As an adult, I asked my sister about it, and she's like, no, they only let you come home when you were about two because I was in the house. Even then, she was maybe nine. Back then, the 80s, things were quite different.
So it's really an interesting adventure that you lived in. I'm really curious. I haven't really spoke to anybody that went through the Mormon church. What did you learn from that experience?
I learned to keep asking questions, and I learned to listen when your intuition is telling you. with my husband, we had the Mormon church was very big on families, which is good. Lots of churches are big on families. Families are good. Don't get me wrong. But I would go to the bishop and I'd be like, can you talk to him? He's abusive. He's being nasty to me. He's throwing pots at my head. Please get him to calm down. And the Mormon church, and they'd be like, oh, yeah, well, he is your husband. And it does say in the Bible, he has domain. And I'm like, this is correct. In the Mormon church, they have the women visit the other women and do what they call visiting teaching. They came out, and the one woman was like, even if you got to lay there like a bump on a log, honey, and let him do whatever it is he wants to do to you, that's what you're supposed to do. My first thought was, no, I don't think so. No way. This cannot be God's plan. But I needed to hear another woman say that to rise the fire up and get the heck out of that marriage. Because I was like, I can't continue to live like this. I cannot raise my children in a loveless marriage where he's abusive all the time. I cannot let them stay in a system that teaches you let your husband do whatever he wants because at the end of the day, you're his property.
And that's just so wrong that we're all equals in the eyes of God. So that's really good that it taught you to
Yeah,
stand up for yourself and your family and take charge.
it
So
did.
it's once again another
And
useful
I'm blessed
experience.
today. I help men and women in various places stand up and take charge for themselves and stop. And I am honored to be able to help them live a better life, whether it be a better life from abuse or just a better life because they're not happy going through the motions. I think a lot of times, if we're not careful, we can get caught up and going through the motions.
This is what I have to deal with. This is what I have to tolerate. It's like, no, let's ask questions. I think it
And
was
let's live.
ask
Part
questions
of
and
living, let's explore. Let's find out what's out there. Let's push some boundaries. Let's see what we can find.
right. Push the boundaries is very important. Most people are not comfortable with pushing boundaries.
I've learned to set them before my mom passed. She was very sick. The girls were young and we went down to visit them. She had Alzheimer's and on dementia. She kept calling my oldest one May. And my youngest one, there was no reasoning in her head who this other child was walking around. I was just some adult in the background. She was that far out of it. At the time, I had two very small children. My oldest was maybe 7, and they all had issues. We had to stop every hour to 2 hours for potty breaks, food, get out and stretch. What should have been a 6-hour trip to West Virginia ended up being like 14 hours. And I said, never again. I talked with my therapist at the time and I said, Mom doesn't recognize that we're there. The girls don't understand it. And this is actually more traumatic for everybody to have us do it. So at that point, I switched to just calling her and I stopped visiting her. On a good day, she remembered me. On a not so good day, she had no idea who she was talking to on the phone. It helped me to put those boundaries up and it helped me when my family was pushing. They were like, oh, you should go see mom. You should take care of mom. No, I've taken care of mom for like 30 years. It's somebody else's turn. I have 2 small special needs children who have 5 doctor appointments a day. You sit at home all day and don't even work. You could take care of mom or somebody else. There are 2 other siblings other than me. My mother was bipolar and she was very unwell. And I remember the first time I had to help her be admitted into a psychiatric hospital, I was 12, and my dad made me do it because he was scared of her when she was off her meds. He's like, I'm not crossing her. You go tell the police what she's doing. I said, that's a hard thing for a child to bear. That's a hard thing for anybody to do. But it gave me experience with their dad was bipolar. So it gave me a glimpse into what that looks like. Both my girls are autistic, but my youngest one has been diagnosed with bipolar too. So it kind of gave me some glimpse into how to help her as much as I possibly could. Right now, the Pranic healers are working with her. I'm working with her with Pranic healing. She's working on getting better. She's a very unwell 18-year-old and she's got a lot to come back to, but I've seen it. She can come back. It's just a matter of her being open to it. I'm letting her have her journey. She has to see where she's going. She has to be able to feel spirit for her.
Right.
On her good days, she had a really good weekend. When I learned pranic healing, she took the class with me and she was amazing.
Mm.
It's in her. She just has to let herself do it. And that's one of the hardest things, whether it be talking as a parent, a life coach, or a spiritual advisor, or a friend, is when you see somebody in pain, but you have to let them have their journey.
That's a real important
And
point that
I'm here if you need to talk. I'm here if you want suggestions. But at the end of the day, this is your part of the journey and you've got to walk it. I'll walk beside you, but I can't walk it for you as much as I would love to and take your pain away.
another important point that I think a lot of people get stuck in, especially parents, is trying to be the savior to their children when their children unfortunately have to have this walk for their spiritual growth and their spiritual journey. On some level, they chose this. And sometimes it's very hard to see that you had all these experiences because I see experience is the greatest teacher.
Yes. One of the things when my oldest one was a baby, I suffered really bad from postpartum depression, didn't even know what it was till she was almost a year and a half old. And I already been dealing with it for a year and a half, and I was very depressed and not in a good space. One of the great things that came out of that was that I was able to pull myself. I've always had the drive, and that's the fire that spirit has blessed me with. Like, I talked to a therapist, and she's like, "Oh my God, how are you getting up and feeding your child and bathing her and changing her diaper? And she's got all these needs." And because my girls were both very sick when they were little. And I said, "Well, I'm the mom. If I don't do it, who else is going to do it? Somebody's got to do it." And it dumbfounded me. She's like, "I see tons of clients on a weekly basis who can't get up out of bed, Margaret. They love their kids as much as you love yours, but it's just not there. And I am very blessed and very honored that spirit gave me that fight."
Yeah, it's that fire. That spirit is the fire, but we usually get all this mental interference saying, don't do this, and just holding us back. We get hung up into the situation. This is happening to me. I can't function. But even when I was disabled, I still lived. I didn't let it consume me. People do get consumed by their experience. So I think one of the most remarkable thing is that you had all these traumatic experiences that would have disabled most people, and you just kept on going, kept dusting yourself off, and kept on marching.
Absolutely. I think energy healing, different things open us up to be open to the gifts and miracles that are available to us. The healer started working with my daughter to help her, and then with me, and I started doing the meditations. I've had several car accidents that were debilitating. I've had daily pain. That's part of why your story resonated with me, because for a long time, I had daily pain. I had daily pain for almost 30 years now. And just a few weekends ago, I posted on Facebook because it's definitely a miracle that I was able to tap into that I'm very grateful for, given to by the divine. A couple weekends ago, we went out, and for the first time since before there were step counters on phones, I walked 6 miles. Normally, I walk a mile, I have to take several breaks, I'm in a lot of pain. I walked 6 miles, didn't intend to walk 6 miles. We were just walking around the beach doing different things. I ended up walking 6 miles in one day. I went to bed. I was tired, but I didn't have pain. The next morning, yes, I still have pain today, but the pain is nowhere near as bad as it has been. I am allowing that to continue and allowing that healing to continue because as healers, we don't heal. We help people facilitate healing within themselves.
That's an important point that the body can take care of itself when we get the mind out of the way. Miracles are a natural state of being. It's when we focus on the negativity, the low vibration that you were talking about before, when we're feeling upset, trapped, or whatever it may be, is that's suppressing your soul, your spirit from doing what needs to be done. If we can simply relax the mind, the miracles return to their natural state. We keep forcing things, trying to figure things out, and it's actually causing a hindrance. You're actually getting in spirit's way. Like spirit wants to do this, but the mind's saying, no, 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 no. We can't do
That's
that. But it's interesting. You're continuing on your spiritual journey now, learning pranic healing and all these other things along the way. And what drives your interest in that?
when I became a shamanic energy healer, I was drawn to it. I have Native American in my blood. It just connected with me. And then when I decided to take Reiki, I was actually trying to help my youngest one because everything else we tried hadn't. She's been very unstable, especially the past 4 years. We had little glimpses here and there, but she's been struggling a lot. Somebody said, "Have you ever thought about pranic healing?" I said, "I work at the Awaken Center and I know there are pranic healers there. and that's a type of energy, but I really don't know what it is. When I took the class, they said something awesome that made it click and explained everything. They said pranic healing is like an energetic band-aid that helps to speed recovery. And I'm like, yes, that makes sense. I get it. When I decided to become a hypnotherapist, I was doing that originally to help my daughters because traditional therapy wasn't working. Traditional therapy was traumatizing them more. And with the hypnotherapy I learned called advanced parts therapy, that works with the subconscious and the inner child. So it's not as traumatic for the person experiencing it. It helps you get outside of yourself. And it's like watching a movie and you work through it with the subconscious and the inner child. So it's less traumatic than sitting in therapy week after week trying to digest and process your story.
Right. It's just a story because the mind of what I found in traditional therapy, it's just dragging the past into the present, which isn't very
Yes,
helpful because you have to move beyond that to live a new life. You have to keep reliving the old life.
absolutely. And the other reason why I took the advanced parts therapy was people go to therapy for 6 months, a year, 6 years. It's like never ending. You come, you do a session, you come back in 4 to 6 weeks, you maybe do another session, maybe 3, 6 months from now, you might need a tune up session, but that's it. You're done. I'm not here to make money. I am here to help people. This is why we're all here to help each other, elevate each other. Somebody said, don't you get scared because they only need you for 3, maybe 4 sessions, and then you're done, and then, like, the last 2 are spread out 6 or 12 months. Don't you get scared about always having to have new clients? No, the universe provides. When we do what we're called to do, the universe will make sure that our bills are paid, our lights stay on, and we keep helping the people who need our help.
Right. And that's really it. That abundance is infinite. The only thing preventing us is the mind saying there's not enough. So
Absolutely.
you just got to say, I'm just helping.
I work with other healers, and I had the mindset for a while when I first started my healing business too. I've got to make X amount of money. Well, yeah, we all have to make X amount of money to keep the bills on. But then once I learned to shift the focus to every day is who am I helping today? Because that's what makes me feel good. That's what recharges my batteries. I got two special needs kids. They take a lot of energy, even though they're adults now. I go to work, I help people, and that's how I get recharged. People are like, wait, you're helping these kids all the time, and then you're coming and helping other people. Are you tired? I get more tired, I found, when my daughter was struggling and I wasn't able to help other people for a couple of months. I got depleted. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I got to readjust my time because I have to be able to help people to make me feel good. Because when we're doing our true purpose, when we're doing our life purpose, I believe that that's what gives us the energy. That's what gives us that fire. That's what keeps us going. That's where we get the hope and the joy. And then we're able to say, yeah, okay, today's pile of crap is kind of big, but you know what? We've got that moment coming later on this afternoon that's going to make that pile of crap go away, even if it is just temporary.
And that's really important though, is to stay aligned with when you're aligned with your purpose, then you are fueled. You're aligning with your spirit, your soul that keeps you on point. If you weren't doing something that resonates with you, you wouldn't be happy, you wouldn't be smiling. Because I can see the
Absolutely.
lightness in you when you work with people. It lights you up. That's when you know you're on purpose. So you mentioned working with various people. So who like people dealing with a lot of trauma, is that where you really tend to
I
reach out to?
I help a lot of people with trauma. I help a lot of people out of abusive or unhealthy relationships. I help a lot of people reorganize their life so they're happy. If you read my website, it says helping you become the happy person the universe meant for you to be. Thank you for the years ago when I first met and started following you and the Miracle Man. I read all your stuff and I gotta love Facebook's algorithm. I didn't see you for a couple of years, and then you recently popped back into my feed, and I'm like, I remember him. He was inspirational to me. He helped me realize that, I may be in pain every day, but I don't have to be.
You don't have to be in pain. The pain is there for a reason. And if we can understand the reason, then it doesn't need to be there anymore.
Absolutely.
There's not enough people to remind individuals that your spirit, your soul, you are the vibrant soul. That's really what this conversation is, to remind everyone of their own light, that their own possibilities. And Yeah, and then I see that too with all your experiences it has been your greatest teacher, and you're really making that impact in the world now. You're leaving a legacy for your daughters. They'll remember, like, oh, now I understand what mom was doing.
Until you mentioned it, I hadn't really thought about it. I just do.
That's the whole point of the Bhagavad Gita, to focus on the task at hand, not the fruits of your labor.
Yeah. I work at the Awaken Center in Plymouth Meeting. Somebody came in the other night. We have a game night every fourth Thursday. And somebody came in and was asking questions, and he was shopping around. He started asking Pranic healing. And I was telling him a little bit about that. And I was so honored and so blessed because I was like, we got a little bit before the game night starts. He said, you mind if I take you in the back? Can I give you a little mini healing? I said, I can explain to you till the cows come home. But once you feel it, that's where the difference is. It was a great blessing to do that for him. He was funny. I do charge for some of my services, but this is just a real quick mini thing. There's no charge for this. I just want to give you a better sample of what you're doing because I feel like words can't do justice to how the healing and the energy will come across. So you sit down at my table. If spirit tells me to do something, I'm not charging you. I'm just doing it as long as you're okay with it.
Right, absolutely. If people aren't familiar with the Awaken Center, can you tell them where that is? That's in Plymouth Meeting Mall.
Sure. Absolutely. It is in the lower level of Plymouth Meeting Mall. It's in the old Victoria's Secrets building. There are many types of healers there. November 9th and 10th, we are having the Awaken Expo. We do that 3 times a year. There'll be tons of healers, free workshops, free talks. I will be giving a talk on guardian angels and, does everybody have one? How do we connect with them? That kind of thing. We're going to share some experiences people have had. That'll be a fun time. The center's amazing. There's a little shop if you have somebody who's got a birthday coming up or you want to give somebody something special or there's somebody who needs crystals. There's all kinds of good stuff in there. Great energy and the healings. You can go to awakenche.org and check out the website for the events. They do a spiritual night, a spiritual discussion once a month. There's open mic night where you can come and share your talent. It's just an amazing center.
I'll make it back down there and down in Pennsylvania. How can people reach you if they're looking to work with you?
So they can either go to angelsalwaysaroundus.com. My Facebook page is also Angels Always Around Us. I am on Instagram at Angel Margaret P. Or you can shoot me a text or call at 856-449-9099. I do sessions in person. I do sessions remotely. I've been doing this professionally since like 2013. Yeah, 2013. I've been doing this professionally for 11 years. I've been talking to deceased all my life. I'm happy and I'm blessed to share this with the world. Anybody who wants to talk about healing, anybody who needs help on their path, please reach out. We're all here to help each other. I've taken lots of classes, had lots of experiences, and I know I'm supposed to share this information with the world.
People may not realize that angels are always around us. They may not feel them because their life is terrible. Things are constantly happening to them. How do you get that across that there is spiritual help available to them?
I just tell them, just start. I say, if you're not sure, just start. If you can't allow yourself to believe that it'll happen, believe that I believe. All we need is that tiny little seed to be planted, that tiny glimmer more than what we see day to day. Once you get that little glimmer, you can fan those flames and turn it into a great big fire of greatness.
Right. And I think that's really good what you do too, because sometimes we have a hard time explaining. You talk to that individual and say, let me give you a taste of what a session is so they can experience that energy. If you haven't had that direct experience, sometimes it doesn't make sense. So it was really good that you offered that so you can say, oh, this is spirit. This is who I am.
Yes.
Thank you for your time, Margaret. It's been a
Thanks
very
for
interesting.
having me. It's so good to see your smiling face almost in person again.
Yeah. Someday I'll be back in Pennsylvania at the Waken Center. It's been a while.
We can't wait.
Thank you, Margaret.
Well, thank you. It was great talking to you again.